Alright, let's try that again. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels, and we'll get back to Down the Rabbit Hole and information in regards to the anti-vax movement here in just a moment. But before we go ahead and continue on with our series by the means of deep diving into Andrew Wakefield, just a real brief disclaimer, some trigger warnings, and yes, a little bit of a rant, alright? Good. Alright, to the disclaimers. For any of the articles, video clips, or photos, or anything that we are going to be going over in regards to Down the Rabbit Hole series, every single one of them you're going to find corresponding links right there in the description box, and hopefully what are some helpful labels so that you know what you're clicking on when you're clicking it. So if you'd like to do a little bit more deep diving in regards to the anti-vax movement, especially their major resurgence starting in the 90s and into the early 2000s, please go ahead and feel free to do so. Also, I do want to remark that we do got this channel marked not for kids for a reason. We do cover some pretty dark subjects like the Judge Rothberg Educational Center. And we definitely use some profanity here and there. So if you got a young one watching this that is 16 and younger, parental supervision is very much advised. Also, if you are gung-ho MAGA, if you are a gung-ho Democrat, if you are a gung-ho politician, groupie of any way, shape, or form, more than likely, I am going to say something that is probably going to offend you. Okay? If that's not something you can handle very well, please go find a cat video. Do it now before you comment on my channel. We're going to get into why here in a moment. But I still encourage you to still look at the links in the description box and doing a deep dive so you can see the information for yourself. Because that's what we're champions on for this channel. We don't care about anyone's narrative. We don't care about anyone's agenda. We like facts. We like evidence. We like to know what is actually going on, not what either side is telling us is actually going on. So, if that kind of straight talk bothers you, this is probably not the place for you, but deep dive anyway. Because regardless of whose team you're rooting for, it's still important information to have and to be able to look at a little bit later. Now, speaking of comments, this is in regards to one that I received on my introduction into the series on food stamps and SNAP. And I'm going to clarify one thing first of all. First of all, I do these videos for education reasons because people on both sides have no idea the type of programs that they're coming after or the individuals that they are going to hurt. I hope to put that up in stark relief. I am holding a mirror up to every single politician in Washington so that they can see themselves in the mirror by looking at what is actual facts and the actual practical applications of what they are doing, how that's going to affect real people's lives. Okay? I don't care for your politics because your politics on either side has never cared about any of us with disabilities or mental health issues except to use us as pawns during your election cycles, only to be discarded after being paid minimum lip service as soon as the election cycle is over. Okay? Now, first off, if you come into my comment section and you say anything in regards to, well, why didn't your family help you? Da 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 da. That is none of your goddamn business. Point blank. That is not your business. I shouldn't even have to respond to a comment like that, but I will. My family is off limits. Yes, they are very well aware of my disability rights advocacy. Some of it they agree with, some of it they do not. Okay? Depending on the subject, except for my brother. My brother and I are essentially ride and die. We will go to war for each other if necessary. But besides that, yeah, coming in to a video that is trying to explain a situation that exists to you in regards to individuals who are vulnerable, who have disabilities, who have to rely on food stamps by demanding can't their family help them, it's tone deaf, it's brain dead, it's ad hominem attack, and that's personal business, and it's none of your damn business. We're going to go ahead and start there, okay? There are situations where families can't help. For example, I'm sure everybody is aware of the fact that we have elderly who are disabled. You think it's good to kind of ask that question when you may be talking to an individual who has lost their family? You ever think about that? What about individuals who came out of very dark and abusive situations? Individuals who, for the sake of their own mental health, need to be away from all that. You gonna morally judge them too? Or how about if it's just someone who was in my situation in the early 2000s? I was in an assisted living apartment straight out of high school as a part of an overall transition age. And just for you Republican morons, that specifically means transferring from the supports and services of an individual being in high school to slowly transition over into adult services. Because sadly, we live in a world now where I actually have to define that for you. My parents lived in a town out in the middle of nowhere, an hour and a half from that apartment. An hour and a half. During this time period, my mom had just finished college and had begun in the radiology department inside the ER. Okay? Good lot of her shifts could keep her there on and off call between 9 a.m. to midnight. Okay? My stepdad is a truck driver. He's been a truck driver his whole life. Even as of right now, even though he's in his 60s, if he's home 2 days within a span of a week, it is considered lucky. My brother at the time was serving his country in the Army when I was on food stamps, supplemental security income, and Medicaid. So exactly how were they supposed to help me? Teleport? How about the fact that they were all working full time? Which means they have their own bills they have to cover. I don't know if you know this or not, but even in the early 2000s, being homeowners was not cheap. They have been paying down the debt over the last 2 to 3 decades, built up during while we were kids, so they could help keep us in decent clothes, with decent food on the table, and decent, safe vehicles to take us to and from school and to and from activities. They're not rich. They can't just show up on my door when I'm in trouble and hand me an $100 Benjamin. They've got their own costs and expenses too. And during that time period, gas was not cheap. They all owned vehicles. They were still paying on most of them. My dad's folks? Well, sir, my dad had passed away in 2008. But, thanks for dragging out the family trauma. We all appreciate it. And all my dad's folks live on the East Coast. Again, how were they supposed to teleport? Yeah. Okay. Maybe think before you start opening your mouth, especially on social media on such sensitive topics. You do not know what you're talking about. I am providing information, educated opinions, and telling you from own personal experience working within the service system after having been a consumer of the service system. What is actually going on behind closed doors. You don't just get to come in here, disagree, and shit all over my family. Not a single member you know a goddamn thing about. Okay? Number 2. Do not come onto my channel in my comments and lie to me and everybody else here. Okay? Let me show you all something. Pardon me for about that, but I'm going to show you something. You know what this is? This is a Missouri food card. Because apparently I hoard cards. Even still have my Great Southern one from somewhere around here, and I haven't been with them for over 2 decades. You want to know what I could get with this card back in the day? I could get bread, eggs, milk, cereal. I could get deli meat. I could get frozen meals. But the only thing I could get was food and drinks. That's it. The commenter came in there trying to tell me that he saw people using their food stamp card to buy lottery tickets and booze. No, sir. No. The majority of the individuals who live out here in my state only get food stamp cards. I know there is a program that is available for others to get into where they can help you out a little bit with cash here and there, but the majority in my state get declined in regards to getting more income on the card. I couldn't take that card out, go to the ATM, and take out cash. I could not buy toilet paper, paper towels, those little Swiffer sheets, or Clorox wipes, or Windex, or toilet bowl cleaner, and all the household necessities. I could only get food. But you could get candy. God forbid someone who is down on their luck, working their ass off as hard as they can, pounding the concrete, as we used to call it, which I was, by the way, every single day. I did not have a job. I spent about 8 hours a day on foot, because this was back in the age where you could still fill out paper applications, picking them up, going home, filling them out, and walking them back. Okay? Yeah. I wasn't buying booze with that card. I couldn't even buy toilet paper with that card. I had to, in the beginning, really rely on the kindness of others until a year and a half into my time in the assisted living apartment, I was finally approved for supplemental security income. Okay? And I would have not been able to continue on without that assistance. Stop condemning people whose situations you know absolutely nothing about, and do not come onto any YouTuber's channel and start saying anything about their family. Anybody who does that is going to be blocked from this channel. No do-overs, no try-agains, no second or third times. Do it once, you're gone. Alright. Now, we're going to where we left off last Friday on the Down the Rabbit Hole series. I hope that is going to be the last infuriating comment from the peanut gallery in regards to subjects they know nothing about, typing them out without the courtesy of even watching the entirety of the video. Alright, pre-existing problems. Both child 4 and child 8 were among the 8 whose parents were reported to have blamed the vaccine. But although the paper specified that all 12 children were previously normal, both had developmental delays and also facial dysmorphisms noted before the MMR vaccination. In other words, this is another way of saying it's a developmental delay, not a sudden regression. The difference between the two is suddenly you have someone like me who's sitting there talking in full sentences, being an info-dumping verbal fool, and then all of a sudden I lose all capacity of movement or speech and essentially just stare blankly at a wall without blinking for days on end. A developmental delay, on the other hand, is called so for a reason, because more often than not, you don't notice that there is an issue to be had until it's time to hit a particular milestone and the kid isn't hitting it. To give you an example, Around ages 1.5, 2, you expect children to become a little bit more vocal, start getting a little bit better at speaking, and begin to try and speak a little bit more often, a little bit more awareness in their interactions with other human beings. And if that's not what you're seeing around that age, you weren't seeing it previously either. So what that means, it's your changing expectations as a child ages that makes things like that, when they miss those types of milestones that they didn't need to hit previously, that parents begin to see that something's wrong there, right? That is a developmental delay. That is a missing a milestone, not regressing after hitting a milestone. Big difference. And there's a lot of confusion between the two. Let me go ahead and continue here. In the case of child 4 who received the vaccine at age 4 years, Wakefield played down problems suggesting that early issues had resolved. Child 4 was kept under review for the first year of life because of wide bridging nose, he reported in the paper. He was discharged from follow-up as developmentally normal at age 1 year. Okay, developmentally normal, what was your milestone? What was your criteria for that child to seem developmentally normal at the age of 1? I ask this because it sounds stupid. Okay? I've already previously said, if you are 2 years old and you are like perfectly verbatim, effortlessly performing a full Shakespearean soliloquy, I will bust out holy water and just flinging it in your general direction, screaming the power of Christ compels you. If you're a 1-year-old, I'm going to just run out screaming down the street like a crazy banshee on crack, okay? For real. But what's a developmental stage for normal age 1 year? I'd like to know what that criteria looks like, because if it's demanding more type of social behavior from a 1-year-old, then perhaps it's not us that's got the issues here. It's perhaps extremely unrealistic expectations. But let me continue. Both medical records presented by the GMC gave a different picture for this child. Reports from his pre-MMR years were peppered with concerns over his head and appearance, recurrent diarrhea, developmental delay, general delay, and restricted vocabulary. And what this sounds like, folks? What I just said. Developmental delay. And I am kind of really tired of this really creepy thing that really began in the mid-2010s with, and I know, well, I should say it really took off during the 2010s. It was there in the 90s too, about, well, if your head and the shape of your nose made us look at you more closely, you sound unhinged. People have all different types of facial features that change as we get older. Noses get smaller, noses get bigger, weird little things pop up here and there. What does that have to do with the price of beans? Okay? I've just always found it a little bit creepy. Okay? Like, why is this emphasis? So this weird doctor thinks they have a right to breathe down my neck because my forehead is a little bit higher and a little bit, or just side to side. from the regular kids they interact with. Yes, and so that gives you reason to breathe down my neck weird. You can't tell what type of diagnosis someone has by looking at their faces alone. Come on, people. Quit making shit unnecessarily creepy. Just saying. And although before his referral to Wakefield, his mother had inquired about the vaccine damage compensation, his files include a report of very small deletion within fragile X gene, and a note of the mother's view that her concerns about his development had begun when he was 18 months old. So, before he got the MMR shot, subsequently left out of Wakefield's conclusions of his study. Anybody surprised? In general, his mother thinks he developed normally initially, and subsequently his problems worsened, and he lost some of his milestones. But he subsequently improved on a restricted exclusion diet, wrote his general practitioner William Tapsfield, referring the boy, then age 9, after a phone conversation with Wakefield. The professionals who have known Child 4 since birth don't entirely agree with this, however, and there is a suggestion that some of his problems may have started before vaccination. More than likely, folks, they did. But when you're younger, exactly how do you communicate to the adults in the room where the difficulties are? You scream and cry. I mean, it's kind of all you got around that age. Just saying. Similarly, with Child 8, who was also described in the Lancet as having overcome problems recorded before vaccination, the only girl was noted to have a slow developer compared with her older sister, the paper said. She subsequently found to have a coarctation of the aorta. After surgical repair of the aorta at the age of 14 months, she progressed rapidly and learned to talk. Speech was lost later. Again, but she was talking before, and then suddenly, okay, when she was talking before, what did it sound like? I know this sounds nitpicky, but folks, when it comes to this, it is kind of extremely important. Because difference between regression and delay is a lot of where all of this confusion is coming from. Let me go ahead and continue here. But Wakefield was not a pediatrician. He was a former trainee gastrointestinal surgeon with a non-clinical medical school contract. In other words, he's not even an individual who has ever worked within this field before. He was not a clinical diagnostician by any means. Not a neurologist, not even a pediatric neurologist. His expertise specifically had to do with the gastrointestinal tract. So the fact that he tried to get in at all in regards to those of us who are autistic should probably pull up multiple red flags for you all. And his interpretation differed from that of the local consultants, including a developmental pediatrician and a geneticist who had actually looked after the girl. Her doctors put the coarctation side by side with the delay and dysmorphism, and noted her vocabulary that before MMR at 18 months she vocalized only 2 or 3 words, which is very normal when you're that age, by the way. Again, if you're doing anything more than that around that age period, I don't know. I might have to get the full bucket of holy water. I know that, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to lighten the situation, and I've got some kind of weird and twisted humor, so I apologize for that one. Child 8's mother has been to see me and said you need a referral letter from me in order to accept Child 8 into your investigation program, the general practitioner Diana Jelly wrote to Wakefield at referral when the girl was aged 3.5 years. I would simply reiterate that both the hospital and members of the primary care team involved with Child A had significant concerns about her development some months before she had her MMR. Funny how many folks that participated in this study, they had noted concerns from their actual general practitioners before they came into this study, before they got into the MMR vaccine. One wonders if Wakefield actually studied their medical history before railroading him into this clinical study. Inquiring minds and all that. The girls' general practice notes also provide insight into the background to the 12 children's referrals. After persons unknown told Miss A that her daughter may have inflammatory bowel disease, Jelly wrote, "Mom taking her to Dr. Wakefield Royal Free Hospital for CT scans and gut biopsies. Crohn's will need a reference letter. Dr. W to phone me, funded through legal aid." In other words, once again, we got a lot of individuals whose primary care physicians were noting some concerns in regards to the development of these children, and documented so before the kids had taken the MMR shot, and that information was left entirely out of Dr. Andrew Wakefield's study. Sounds pretty damning to me, right? And on that one, folks, we're going to go ahead and close out. We don't get very many views on this channel, and the few we do tend to get removed from time to time. So, folks, if you could, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe. Please, folks, don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time. As always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. And I'll see you again here in a moment. Well, I'll see you all tomorrow. I'll see you guys here in a minute while we do another episode of the Medicaid series. Because, yeah, heading out to the theme park Silver Dollar City tomorrow, and it's gonna be awesome. Alright, I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.